We had to make a few sacrifices, but the fact that we were both driven, I think, is what kept us strongly together.
Like, focus on the sport. Like, one thing about me, and you'll learn the more you get to know me, is like I have love for the game, like pure love. For me, boxing has been my first love.
I think it's important for like continuous improvement. I mean, we evaluate every week. We're like, what could we change? What can we improve?
Hey everyone, I'm very proud to represent our sponsor for this podcast. We're actually located here in Santa Paula inside A Plus Branding. They're your one-stop shop for promotional supply products such as t-shirts, custom hats, custom apparels, you name it, they brand it. A Plus Branding provides all your promotional needs. They also provide vinyl decals such as stickers. They even did this wall here for me to make sure that this room is branded properly, to make sure that the guests that do come here feels that experience. Make sure to go ahead and check out A Plus Branding. You can check them out at their website, aplusbranding.com, and you can go ahead and request a quote from them. Now back to the show. All right, guys, welcome to another episode here at Voiced Podcast. I'm your host, Churro Champ, and I have two couples in here with me today to join us. And it's been a while since I have a couple to kind of talk about their story. To kind of break this up, we have Hugo, the boss, aka Centeno, and his wife Ezra as well, to join us here on the podcast. And in here, we're going to talk about a couple of things. So a little bit of background about Hugo as well. He's from Oxnard. He turned pro at 2019, ranking 15 in the world. Notable accomplishments. He's had 3 world title bouts. He's been seen on Showtime, HBO, Fox, and NBC. Good for you, man. Featured in Men's Health, Visitor in Oxnard, and a couple other cool things that, you guys can check out his website. They're also operating their business, Churro Champ, right? So that's pretty cool. We're going to get to learn a little bit about that, get to know their background, how they work together as a couple, and how does that affect their business. And they're going to drop a couple of lessons and insights about their relationship, their business, and, of course, Hugo's pursuit to becoming world champ. Right? So I'm super excited for that. So make sure you guys stay tuned all the way. We have some giveaways that we're going to be giving, and you're only going to be able to redeem this giveaway if you listen all the way through. And we are not going to tell you when to skip, so you can't just skip through it. So welcome to the episode, guys. I'm so glad to have you guys in here. When I saw Hugo following the podcast, supporting it, I just like, yo, like, who is this guy? Like, I love when people support other people, so like, it just drew my attention, and I asked Josie, like, hey, like, do you know this guy, right? I've seen him around before. Like, do you think he's a notable guest that we can have? He said, yes. All right, cool. I reached out, and I was like, hey, you know what? Let's have your business. I'm like, oh, him and his wife also run the business. So I'm like, cool. Can we have both of you guys on? I'd love to see how that also intertwines with you guys' business from day to day. So welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. So for all of our listeners that are tuning in right now, let's get a little bit of background about who you guys. Obviously, you've been an athlete since your teen, right?
I've been boxing since I was 7 years old.
7 years old.
So now it's been 26 years.
Okay.
So I'll let the listeners do the math.
Yeah.
Throw my age out there.
Yeah.
And so man, I've always, ever since I started, I used to play around with my dad when I was a kid. Like, he'd get me mad at the house, and we'd put the gloves on. But when I turned 7, I was finally able to go to the gym, and they accepted me. And ever since I started boxing, like, officially, I just fell head over heels for the sport.
Nice.
And then so from there, I never stopped.
Love
and
that.
And then when I got to the age of about 10 or 11, I won this huge tournament. I was 11 years old, and I won this huge tournament, and the tournament's called the Silver Gloves, which in my opinion is probably like the hardest tournament to win when you're 15 and under.
Love that.
So the tournament's about 4 months long, and you got to stay at weight, and there's no losing, so there's no losing bracket. So once you're out, you're out.
Damn.
And I was able to make it all the way to the nationals and be able to have the title of being, the best in the United States for my age and weight class. And once that happened, I just knew that there was no other option for me. There was never like a plan B. It was just plan A and pedal to the metal, and I just never stopped.
Love that. Cool. Awesome. We'll dive into a little bit more about your boxing journey as well, especially at that age. Ezra, can we get a little bit of background who you are?
Yeah. So I'm Ezra, guys. Born and raised in Philippines until I was about 8 years old. I lived in Santa Barbara for the first couple of years, and then I've been in Oxnard since I was about 10 years old. Always been into a family with medical professionals. So I kind of went against the grain when I decided to go into business.
Love that.
You can imagine how upset my parents were.
I
Maybe
know
we
that
could
feels.
relate. Yeah, they were very upset. They wanted me to be a doctor, and I said no. I wanted to be in the fashion industry. So
wow.
I graduated from Channel Islands High School, and then I was supposed to go to UCSB as a pre-med student, and I ended up going to fashion school. Fell in love with it. I got into, I was in buying and purchasing for a fashion company. I got my AA, my bachelor's and master's in business.
Wow.
So I've always kind of been into the whole entrepreneurial industry. But I worked for corporations for most of my life until Hugo and I got married. And we wanted to do something different where we can both kind of be creative. And so that's how we got into entrepreneuring. He taught me, and he gave me the courage to kind of step out of being safe.
Yeah.
And so
Love
now
that.
here we are. He's still doing what he loves, and luckily we can do both. I actually still work for a corporation from home,
Okay.
and we run the catering business.
Love that.
And we have 2 babies,
That's awesome.
4 and 6, a boy and a girl.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you guys got a lot of play going on.
We're busy.
I
Yeah.
love that.
That's why
We're busy.
it took a little bit of like to trying to figure out the schedule for us to come on because
No, I appreciate that so much.
our schedule, man, and it's like I always try to tell people like I'm never too busy, but it's hard when
Really
our
hard.
schedules try to mix together to where we can get on the same page.
Yeah.
But I knew I needed to also have her on because
Yeah.
I couldn't continue my career and my journey
Without her.
without her.
Love that. Love that. Well, again, appreciate you guys for even being here. I always love it, when people come in here. I know it takes time with their day, so I'm very grateful for you guys to be on the podcast, share you guys' journey. How did you guys have you guys known each other for a while, or like how did you guys end up getting together? I'm just curious. I mean, usually, just so you know, in the traditional Filipino background, we usually end up marrying, within our own race. It's very typical for that, but like in here, especially in 805, like it's majority Hispanic. So
Right.
I love that.
I'll let Ezra tell you because if I tell you,
She has a different story.
well, no, it's the very
You're
similar
gonna tell the
story,
story
but I'll
anyways.
end up telling the story, and then she'll be like, "Oh, why do you always have to throw that in there?" But I'll let her tell you, and then I'll tell my version.
Okay.
Well, luckily for me, I will say this. Shout out to my dad because he was never required. He never required me to, like, you have to marry a Filipino.
Good.
And like you said, we grew up in the 805. Everybody, my best friends are Mexican. I married one. And I'm so into the community and the culture, and it's so similar.
Yeah.
So we just really mesh well together in all aspects of our life. And now I met him when I was 15. I didn't even know because he's younger than me. And I guess he met me at a party, a house party. And
She's not gonna tell you, but she crashed one of my Halloween parties.
Oh, okay. Uninvited.
I was 11.
so we have common friends. He had a friend who was another boxer,
Yeah.
my age. And we were all hanging out, and he told me about a party. So we went. And I think a few years later, I was already in college, and you were in high school, and we kind of reconnected. But we didn't start dating until he was 20. And if you do the math, I'm 3 years older than him. So
Oh,
we
okay.
started dating when
He's
he
over here
was
nodding
20.
his head.
And I was 23. And the rest was history. We've been together ever since. We're not perfect, but we've been together about going on 14 years.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's
Now he's going to
awesome.
tell you the colorful story.
What is the colorful story?
So to fill in the blanks, when I really had met Ezra, that was like just kind of like in passing when she came to that house party, and so this common friend he was one of my best men for our weddings, and he's still my longtime friend, probably the oldest friend that I have. It was at his house because he had that house where like it was separated from his parents' house, so everyone would come and just hang out there, and you would find him there even when he wasn't there. We'd be at
Yeah.
the gym, and all
Yeah.
his friends would be there. And so Ezra was, happened to be dating one of his friends,
Here we go.
and I was that little kid that was hanging out in the background. And at the time, I was only like 11 or 12, and And then there was just this long period where I didn't see her anymore. And then right when I was about to go pro, since she was in the fashion industry, my friend reminded me like, hey, like I know you want to get team shirts done. Like, why don't you hit her up?
Okay.
And so I was like 17 still. Like I was like, hey, I still had her number because she never changed her number. I was like, hey, you know, I just want to let you know I'm about to turn pro, and I wanted to see like, you know.
Slid in the DMs.
You think you could help me somehow like create some team shirts and stuff like that? And she's like, nah, I'm busy. And like you know, come to realize, you know, she was going to school for full time, and then she had a big corporate job, and then she would still find time to go to the gym, and like she was like always studying, and like she was always busy. And at the time I didn't realize that until I started dating her. And I wasn't 20, I was 19. You know what I mean?
Here we
and
go.
So so like she's like, nah, I'm busy. And then like I invited her to my fight, and she's like, nah, I'm busy. And I was like, damn, like I never been like shot down that bad. And then so
you weren't even asking her out.
No, I was just inviting her to my fight and get some help. You know what I mean? But still trying to look cool in the process.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we say, right?
And so a year later passed by, and then that's when that whole app, I think it was called Kick, it had restarted.
I forgot about this.
Yeah. And so I had her number, and this was when like it was barely like it would go through all your phone book.
Yeah. And
it would tell you, oh, so and so has Kick. You want to say hi? And I was like, dang, Ezra, I haven't told her what's up in a while. And so I said hi. She said hi. And then, long story short, I ended up asking her out, but I was like, oh, let's go to dinner. And she's like, nah, I can't do dinner. I'm busy. Oh. And I'm like, like early dinner? And she's like, nah. I'm like, lunch? And she's like, yeah, we can do lunch. I got like 15 minutes for lunch. And I'm like, lunch? Like, that's what you do. That's what you do with like out of town relatives. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we went to lunch, and she's like, all right, we got to eat because I got to get back to work. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so, we went out to, I think it was like Hook Burger, and I got her like to start laughing, and she started laughing, and when she started laughing, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I know I'm in.
I got it.
And her 15 turned into 30, and then 30 to 45, and then we were there for about an hour, and then she's like, oh my God, I'm so late for work, like let's do this again. And then so we went out, and then long story short, we got married and had kids.
Sealed deal.
Yeah.
Sealed deal.
Yeah. Shout out to Steven Rodriguez. He is the reason why we met.
Yeah.
He was our best man, and we're still very close to him.
That's a really interesting story, and very honestly inspiring, you know, just to see like how you guys have transpired that relationship to where it is now. Especially, you know, I think a lot of couples I see is that often they end up compromising their dreams and goals because, you know, they have to meet the needs of that person. Right? Like for you continuously pursue. I'm surprised you didn't even meet him at like a boxing, you know, a gym or something, you know? So that was interesting. So I am curious. So then when you guys started dating, right? Obviously you were training, you know, you were rigorously, you were trying to, there was no other way out, and you were dating him. What was that experience like? And, you know, how did you experience that?
So for me, it actually was easy because what brought us together was how driven we were. And I think what made us feel like soulmates is how different we felt. You know, I feel like in terms of Oxnard, there's a certain mentality that we wanted to get out of. And, you know, we had big dreams, and we didn't want to feel weird for them at the time. I feel like it's different now. But when we met, it was a little bit harder to want more or something bigger or think bigger. It seemed so far-fetched. Did
you guys feel like Oxnard was kind of limited as far as like opportunities?
Yeah, and when you would speak of your dreams, it seemed a little bit hard. So when I met him and he would explain his dreams to me, it was colorful. It was different, you know, from the other people I've met, other guys I've dated. And I love that he's like, I'm going to be a world champion, and that's what he told me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here for you. I will support you. And it worked out in terms of busyness because I had my own path, and it was important for me to have my own path. So I kept going to school. I kept going to work. I was developing my career, and he did his thing. So it just kind of meshed well together that for a while our baby was our careers. Okay. I mean, it caught up to us later when we had a family. We had to make a few sacrifices. But the fact that we were both driven, I think, is what kept us strongly together.
I love that.
Yeah.
So-
And we would share and not compromise. What's the word? Complement each other?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, collaborate, kind of mesh together.
It's
So-
almost like we would feed off of each other's
Love that.
energy.
That's usually how
You
a good
know,
relationship-
because I feel like, you know, obviously I know she would have made it far even if I wasn't with her.
Mhm.
And I know I would have done the same, but I
Right.
feel like it almost elevated how much we wanted what we were pursuing. Like, because, you know, every person goes through that small moment where there's that self-doubt where,
Mhm.
like, you're unsure of what you're aiming for and you're going to accomplish it. But when you have that person that cares about you, that believes about you through the roof, I
Mhm.
mean, you know, yeah, we have all these people. And even then, when we first started, you have all these people on Instagram or social media that sometimes, you know, want to bring you down with whatever they write or, like, bring in self-doubt. At the time, Twitter and, like, Instagram were, like, barely getting going. And you know, you have the people, you have the writers that sometimes would write certain things.
Mhm.
They would create that self-doubt that you didn't have
Yeah.
before the fight.
Mhm.
But then you have your significant other that they just lift you up. Or
Yes,
same thing with her, like whatever bosses or managers she had that, you know, would write something negative or nitpick at, you know, when you're trying to aim through the roof, and then, you know, it create that self-doubt.
Mhm.
That's not really there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm always a big believer of a person that's supposed to be in your life, that's supposed to stay, or at least, you know, relationships in general should be with people that continuously pour into you. You know, and it shouldn't be someone that takes you away. And I'm a big believer of that, you know, because I think that's what creates sustainable relationships. And, you know, that's not talked about because oftentimes most people think they have to sacrifice a piece of themselves in order to accommodate for this other person. So I got to go back with your question. When you were training and you guys started dating each other, how did you, what was it about her that made you say, hey, she's worth the person to have around me? Because you could have been like, you know what, I'm getting somewhere, you know.
right. Yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying. And
Mhm.
at the time, like I said, like when I first started dating her, I was only 19. And so, you know, for me, it was like, oh man, like she's already accomplished. She was 23 and she was already graduating from her master's. And she
Yeah.
won't tell you this because
That's
she's
awesome.
very modest, but she was putting herself through school.
Wow.
And like to me, it was just like I never had met a girl or woman that was already so driven at such a young age like I was. And so it was the same thing for her, and I didn't realize that obviously until I got older because I was, you know, I was only 19. But to see that and to have someone like even in your personal time be able to motivate you, not
sure.
just when I'm in the gym or videos to watch, but when it becomes your significant other and your personal time, to have someone that just motivates you and drives like has you driven is just something that I had never seen. Again, something at least not in the 805.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and there's a lot of people in the 805 and there's a lot of big dreamers, but people that actually do it and accomplish it, there's very few. And so I happened to, in my eyes, strike gold, and
Love that.
and you know, she just brought something to the table that was something very different, and our connection was just like it was magnetic.
Love that.
And so, you know, I feel like everything just fell into place and it was cohesive.
Damn.
And so for me, I felt like, you know, I knew she was the one. I was only 19, but I just knew, you know.
Wow, relationship
Yeah.
goals right there.
I
guys.
think-
Shit, where do we find that? Go ahead,
I
Ezra,
think for
sorry.
me, what is important, and I didn't do it on purpose. I think the fact that I wasn't insecure. I don't know what other, you know, women he was dating, but I feel like I wasn't really insecure. I didn't really have time because I was so focused and driven, you know, coming from a background where I was, you know, I felt like I had something to prove to my family with my culture
I
and things
understand.
like that. I felt like I was so driven that I didn't push him. I didn't push the relationship. We didn't even call each other boyfriend and girlfriend until a year later. And it just happened organically. And, you know, I was aware that being with him was going to come with, you know, girls everywhere, girls asking for pictures. And I'm still that person where, you know, girls will ask to take a picture, guys. And I just put up a smile and I say, okay, I'd love to take a picture. And you kill them with kindness and the fact that I think I wasn't jealous of that. I think it was easier. I think if I was
Learn to manage it.
jealous person, it would be harder to stay in the relationship. But we had our own things going, so it was important to me that we were two whole individuals that complemented each other, but we didn't need each other.
Interesting.
You know, so we were growing, but we were still our own people.
So then I gotta ask, Ezra, following up with that. Thank you for sharing that. By the way, I love hearing that. It's motivating to see relationships take it to the next level and really just be able to articulate where and how they feel about each other. So what do you think was it that made you feel secure? And obviously, as you mentioned, you knew that there was a cost of kind of being in it with him, the attention, the fame, you know, and then him having to work out more and train for something that he's really driven for. What was it that kept you secure? You know, what do you think it was?
I think it's just really believing in each other's dreams and seeing it through. I mean, I have been with him since your 6th or 7th fight.
It was about my 6th fight.
And he's had over 30 professional fights. That's awesome. I have not missed one. And I see how hard he works, so it's not just talk. I mean, he's, you know, at some people, you'll just start to call out their bluff after a while.
Right.
But he is about what he says. Like, we're about our word, and I'm like that too. And so every time I see him win or lose, I just know that he really means what he says. That's why he's at 27 points, right? That's why I feel secure. And in the same sense too, like, we're building our own safety net, like we have our business, so it worked out, so that he can keep doing what he's doing. So we found it in each other. You know, we have the same like background, we have the same faith, so I think it really works out. And that's what has kept us together this long. That's awesome. You know, I think it's cool to see how others perceive that. You know, especially when it comes down to trying to build a relationship, having that create sustainability, just having faith in general. Yeah. You know? When you were pursuing your master's at the same time while you were kind of like dating him at that time? Yeah, he would be training. How was that like then? Oh my gosh, I'll never forget. Like, I'll be training, or he'll be training, and I'm studying for a test, and I would study in the dark because he was so tired. And so he would come after a run and we would be hanging out. And that was the only time I would have is at nighttime because I would work and then I would go to school. And so I would dim the lights and I would read and study for a test. And he would be asleep because he had just ran 6 miles. Make it 12 if he runs twice a day during camp. So, yeah, I don't know where I was getting with that. But it's just, I'll never forget those moments. It was hard, but we fed off of each other with the hard. I saw him working hard and I was working hard. We didn't have children then, so I felt like it worked out. And that's what we were watering each other's. Did you guys get motivated by each other's, like, you guys saw each other's effort?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I definitely felt like, you know, I would wake up sometimes because I was exhausted, and like, you know, I'd try to see if she had free time, but she wouldn't. Like, from the moment she woke up, she would go to work, and then as soon as she'd get out of work, she'd have school, and then as soon as she'd be done with school, she'd go to the gym. And I'm like, damn, like, it's 11 o'clock, like, you don't have like 30 minutes to come see me. And so she'd come hang out, and then she's like, but while I hang out, like, we can talk a little bit, but I gotta get this done. Like, this is important. Get that shit done. Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm about my business, and, you know, to see that and not be the only one. Because so am I. Like, I have a certain set schedule, and when I'm not on that, like, you know, you become a machine.
I feel it.
And so when you're not doing that, you have to let the machine rest. And so, like, even like just hanging out with her, I wasn't resting. But I'm like, man, like, I liked her so much at the time. I'm like, you know, missing a little bit of rest. I'll be okay. Like, and so she would come over, and then I'd turn over, and she'd just be like, going through the whole book and like writing things down. I'm just like, dude. And then she'd leave like at 2 a.m. and she'd like, all right, I'm done here. I gotta head out. Go to sleep. Do the same thing the next day.
But you appreciate those times.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And would you even say that because you guys were so busy, kind of working towards those goals, that time that you guys spent together made it become worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the best part too when I see a relationship is that they want to. How do I put this in words? I think with relationships, when we become infatuated and we find somebody that we really admire and maybe even love, we want to spend all the time with them, and that's cool and all. But I think the effort of knowing that that's always gonna be there, and you're going to work something together, makes it okay for you to step away from that time to work on something you want to do so that you guys can be unified and come back and be like, you know what, wow, this is a very worthy time. I see that a lot with really sustainable, long-lasting relationships where both couples are driven working on whatever it is that they do, and they sustain themselves. They have much more appreciation for each other because they see each other. They're not insecure. They don't feel like, oh, why aren't you spending time with me? Like, they're finding a balance in between.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And I think that's I think you hit the nail right on the head, because I feel like that's the perfect word to use is admiration.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I guess even right now, it's just coming to the realization that when I was that young, I admired all the work that she was putting in, because then I would tell myself, like, am I working that hard?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not, like, I need to step it up.
Yeah.
So like I'm telling you, I feel like she helped me evolve as she was next to me without her realizing it. Like, just doing her own thing,
Yeah.
she just helped me elevate my own game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So okay, so then let's pivot back into your career journey as a pro boxer, right? Someone asked me this that nobody asked me this. Actually, one of our guys in here. What? I may have forgotten this question, but he asked in this way: what's the difference in training with it as an amateur versus a pro? Like what intensity does that entail when it comes down to, you know, professionalizing yourself or putting yourself out there?
Right. So the fight game is actually a lot different from the amateurs to the pros. So as a kid, I don't know, a kid who has that, like, let's say he's 10, 12 years old.
Right.
Even if he has 100 amateur fights, he's only fighting for a minute. All the rounds are only a minute. And the older you get, they turn into a minute and a half. And once you hit the men's division, which is 17 years old to the age of 34, you're considered a male.
Wow.
Or a full-grown man, and then they'll become 3 minutes. But then the actual fighting is just almost who lands the cleaner punches, or if you land 3 punches, it becomes a point. As opposed to when you're in the pros, you could be getting hit a whole round, like with small punches, and then you get hit with one big shot, or you land one big shot, and you could take the round.
Yeah.
Because it's on a 10-point must system, which means you start at 10, and if you lost with the punch, you have 9.
Okay.
You know, so the scoring is a lot different. So in the amateurs, the score could be, I don't know, 20-5,
Gotcha.
whatever, you know. So in the amateurs, you want to be quick on your feet, you want to land, you want to be fast, you got to make sure you have the head movement. As opposed to the pros, your training has to be for precision, to where when you hit someone, they're going to sleep.
It's performance-based
and
too, right?
if they have a chin,
Yeah.
then you got to make sure you're ready for the whole 12, because if you're not, then you know it's going to cost you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So definitely, like, your training is completely different, as opposed to, like, the pros, you want to sit down and land those hard shots, and the amateurs, you want to be on your toes and make sure you don't get hit at all.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for articulating. I wanted to ask that question. I'm not too familiar with, even though, you know, obviously being in Philippines, you should be watching like Pacquiao,
Manny.
right? Like,
Yeah.
to be honest, like I only watched him when everybody talked about it. Like I was, you know, was never into it until I started getting into Muay Thai. I started to watch it, hang around with this guy, telling me, "Hey, come watch his shows with me." I'm like, "Cool, let me find a time," you know. So
Right.
we'll find some time still, you know. So I'm very intrigued in the sport, and especially where it's headed now. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that, you know, there's a little bit of like money, too much money that's being involved in there. But then again, that is where it's captivating more audience, would you say?
I feel like a lot of it now has become a show,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's what I'm saying.
it's all about trying to go viral and posting this on TikTok and Instagram, and it's not like how it used to be, like in the 90s or early 2000s, where it was just like show up and fight. Like, yeah, we got to sell the fight and we'll do that on the press conferences. But now it's all like, oh, like, check me out, I'm doing this, or I'm wearing this to like go viral. And it's just like focus on the sport. Like, one thing about me, and you'll learn the more you get to know me, is like I have love for the game, like pure love.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like, I mean, what does boxing mean to you exactly?
I mean, honestly, like, even Ezra like made me realize this, like, as I got older and we continued on our relationship. Like, for me, boxing has been my first love. And as much as I've loved it through the roof, it hasn't always shown me the same love back, because of all the politics, or because of all the money, or because of these people that are trying to get famous. You know, there's always like a hurdle, and there's always things that'll get in front of that. But to me, like, I have pure love for the sport, because like I said, I fell in love with that at such a young age. But, you know, and even now I'm still trying to continue and trying to,
Awesome.
I still work out every day and trying to get back in the ring, to get the ball rolling and trying to have another world title chase. And just to see, like, you know, like, it's tough to say, but to see the corruption because of all the money that is involved, it's tough. You know, you'll see like a bad decision called when another fighter clearly won, but this guy is the guy that brings in all that money, so we need to keep him in the winning circle.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of corruption with that.
So how do you sustain yourself? I mean, you know, like for me, sometimes like I can see this in other people. It feels hopeless to fight something that you can't control.
Right.
Like, how do you create that sustainability, staying your head in the game?
I think going back to, and so for a lot of people that are probably wondering that have followed my career, like, oh, why haven't you fought? Are you done? I was able to take some time off and spend it with my kids because I feel like even just training for my daughter, my firstborn, her name's Emmy. When I was training, and I was training in LA, and I was training over at Wildcard where Manny Pacquiao and Freddie Roach are. That was my daily training, and so I would drive from here there every single day back and forth. So I'd be out there and I'd lose half the day, and you know, because of that, I missed her first steps. You know, and to me that's a huge deal. Like, she's my daughter, you know, she's my legacy. My legacy continues with her, and so to miss monumental moments like that, it was tough for me. And so we had our second kid, and then I was like training through the holidays, and so I told myself, you know, I can't keep missing moments like this like all the time. I need to like be sure that I'm there for those monumental moments. And so I was able to take 2 years off and spend some really good quality time. And then while I did that, I was able to miss the sport because, like you said, like with all that going on, I think because I got to a point where, like I explained how much I love the sport, I got to a point where I hated it just as much.
Okay.
And, you know, that's a big deal.
Was it mostly because of the training or just the time that it took away from you?
I think the time I knew was like, you know, it's inevitable because of all the training that it needs to be done for one fight.
And the industry kind of.
It just happens, you know, and it just sucks that, you know, the kids are caught in the crossfire. But, you know, I'm trying to do something obviously to catapult their life as well, and to where they don't have to struggle or they don't have to worry.
Right.
But to see like how much the sport has changed with all that is just, it was tough for me because I felt like you said, I can't control it, and it affects my own career. And so I kind of got fed up with all the stuff going on in boxing as well. So I'm like, I need to kind of like step away so I can be able to miss the sport, because all that kind of like kills the fire inside you. And so stepping away, being able to spend time with my kids, and then also miss the sport. Like, now I'm actually excited to get back in the ring. Like when you're a kid and you get something new, or you're going somewhere, like, you know, I have that ball in the pit of my stomach, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm urging to get back in there. So it was definitely like a good time to be able to spend away from the sport.
It's awesome. I think it also made you appreciate the value of it as well.
Absolutely.
Like taking a step. But sometimes we need to take that step back to get some different perspectives.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
I think one thing I could share too is, since he was 7, I don't think he's ever taken real time off. I mean, he went undefeated for so long that he never stopped. And when he took his first loss, he was back in the gym after a week. So I almost feel like I called it his sabbatical, where he needed to kind of find himself. And then one day he was like, you know what, I'm ready. And I said, okay, let's do it. Let's get to work. And I still support him. If this is what he loves, this is what he feels like is his calling, I support it through and through. That's awesome.
You're an amazing wife.
Yeah. And he doesn't take any time off.
Yeah.
So
I do got to say, I think I spoke to somebody about this the other day. You know, a lot of athletes get into the sport, and especially if they turn pro, and they're kind of just dragged or pushed, or, you know, pushed by the waves and the wind, right? That they don't get the time to appreciate the process. Because for me, entrepreneurship is a game. I love it because it feels like I love the process. Yes, there's a lot of downs, there's a lot of ups. I appreciate the ups even more because of those downs. There's a process that I get to appreciate, the growth, I get to appreciate life itself, you know. And I think it's the same way for sports, right? We're so maybe indoctrined for some people, you know, the dad or uncle pushes them to the sport, and now they have trained to the physical aspect of it, but they haven't really conceptualized how much do they actually like the sport, first of all. And the second is like, wow, like you get to do something that a lot of people don't do. So oftentimes we're kind of just pushed by that like life, and that we don't get the time to appreciate it, right?
Right. And I guess to answer that, I mean, I did appreciate it on the way up, but I never got pushed.
Love that. So it's all you.
Yeah, it was also my dad used to box when he was younger, and a lot of people expected that, you know, because he showed me the sport so young, and he was not able to get as far as I did because he was involved in a motorcycle accident, so he was unable to continue. So a lot of people are like, well, why do you have your kid in this like dangerous sport? Like, look, like these kids are bleeding, and my dad's like, honestly, I don't get up and tell him like, hey, it's time to go to the gym. Like he gets his own stuff ready, and he's like, hey, I need you to take me to the gym. My dad was never one to have to wake me up and be like, hey, you're on a diet, or hey, you need to go run. It was always on my own time. And even now, like, you know, and no one really tells me, you know, like you got to diet or you got to go run. It's just all out of, you know, motivation and love for the game.
Where do you think you got that drive from? I'm just curious. Most people get it from their parents or mentors, you know.
I think of seeing the glory that comes with the sport and becoming a world champion. Like, I'd always joke around and playing with my dad when I was younger. He had bought these weightlifting belts, and when you're like 4 or 5, you don't know what they are. So there's 5 belts that are out there, and he just wrote all the belts names on them, like WBC, WBA, WBO. And we'd fight at home, and like just even like to joke around and like be able to put up that fake belt and just have that glory as a kid, like, oh, I won. So you know, to want to relive that as a grown up, I think my goal was just always like, I need to become a world champion.
Wow,
like, that's my goal. And I feel like, I guess I instilled it in myself to want to be able to accomplish that. And I was only like 4 or 5. And to have that drive, I mean, all the way up till now, like, I'm still chasing it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, honestly, it makes you feel like a kid. I've always, like, this is something I've realized the past 2 years for a lot of people. If you can just tap into yourself as an inner child and figure out what it was that you wanted to do and tap into that same emotions and somehow connect it to what you do now, you're going to live a very sustainable, fulfilling life. Like for me, I recall way back then, the reason why I love building shit, I love just like seeing things through, being behind the process, was because I love building shit. I was literally building freaking Legos and cities, and I had this like map of a rug of a road, and I would build cities around them. And I just love freaking building shit.
Right.
You know? So like the process that keeps me sustained is that same feeling as me as a child and adolescent.
Right.
You know, and going back to that, would you bring that champ on? Like, how does that feel? And it's just an amplified experience of reality.
Absolutely. I feel like even with every victory comes like I'm one step closer.
Yeah.
I'm one step closer. So you're like inching your way close. And for me, like I said, like it sucks to have all these people like want to bring you down with that crab mentality. But for me, it was never like, oh man, like maybe they're right. I'm not good enough. But to prove it to like myself, like I knew I was that good. And to be able to make it like in the top 5 in the world, like I didn't make it like top 5 like in Oxnard or in California or in the United States. Yeah, it's like there's millions of people in this world, and to be able to like in my weight category to have like Canelo, Triple G, and then it's Hugo Centeno, like damn, that's a big deal, you know, and especially when they're all in their primes. I'm like, man, like I may not have won a world title yet, but I know I belong with those elite.
Yeah.
So all this time since I was 4 or 5 years old playing around and dedicated my life to this one thing, I knew I was meant to become this, and I knew I could accomplish it because I believed in myself.
I love that.
So for all the kids listening out there, if you believe it and you have people trying to, you know, bring you down, just know that if you have the self-belief and don't listen to that self-doubt, you can make it.
Have you guys ever, I don't know if you have heard of this, Ezra, have you guys ever heard of the Maslow's hierarchy of pyramid?
I don't
Basically,
think so.
in the bottom of the pyramid, there's me and my little brother talk about this all the time. In the bottom, there's the needs that you need, like, you know, food, shelter, et cetera. Then as it goes up, you go like you need shelters, you need friends, and then you have social acceptance. And at the top of this, and this is just a theory, you know, it's a philosophy that some philosopher made up, is self-actualization. And that self-actualization is when you start to realize that you're something much more. It's when you realize where life could be, where life is worth more. It's that self-identity that you identify with, that's something much more than you thought you could be. And you realize, oh shit, like this is where life is worth. And I'm sure this is why you're also building the business, which we'll tap back into as well, right? Would you say that knowing that you could be one of the greats, knowing that you could work with one of the greats, is one of the things that keeps you going in there? One of them, right?
It's one of the, I guess now one of the many reasons, because before it was just, hey, I need to become a world champion. But you know, as you go along, you become older, things change in your life. Your values change. Your motivation changes.
For sure.
Like, now I have 2 kids, a family, a
There's
business.
more motivation for you
and
to
it's just like,
showcase that,
hey,
right?
like, I had to teach my kids, like, you know, like, because they always, we'll be at Chuck E. Cheese, we'll be wherever. Yeah. And some people, like, someone will notice me and like, hey, man, I know you're busy with your family. Can we get a quick picture? And I'm like, yeah, bro, like, let's do it. He's like, man, I think you're an amazing fighter, man. Like, when are we going to see you back in the ring? So I'll take the picture and then I'll come back and sit down, hang out with the kids. And my daughter will be like, hey, Dad, who's that weird man want to take a picture with you? And, you know, they don't understand. Like, they haven't seen my journey. And they obviously...
How old are you two?
My daughter is 6 going on 16.
Okay.
And then my son just turned
6 going on 16?
Yeah. She's just beyond her age. Okay. Yeah. And so, like my daughter got to experience a little bit of it. But my son, I mean, he really has no idea besides just going to the gym with me.
Nice.
But it's a funny process to see as it's unfolding.
I imagine, because I mean, even me and my nephews, like, I'm seeing them unfold as well. I'm missing parts because I'm so busy, right? But like, as I'm seeing them progress and how their brains are developing, even my little brother, you know, before he blew up his freaking brand, you know, I'll show you guys a little bit about him later. But just seeing that progress, it's not just inspiring, but I think it makes me appreciate life much more, you know, just seeing that progression, and you see the value of that itself, you know? Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course, man.
We'll jump back into how you're going to, I'm curious to see how your pursuit of that world champion is now, like what that looks like. Let's dive back into you guys' business, right? When Churro Champ, correct? Right? When did you guys start the business?
Should we start from the beginning?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So, I think at some point, us as a couple, it was our first year of marriage, and we reached kind of a peak of, you know, our financial stability. Cool. He was doing really well with his sport. He was signed on to PBC with Al Heyman, and I had my job, so we were able to buy a house, and we had some savings. And we're like, okay, well, in the future, the outlook for us is to obviously have passive income, where we wanted to have income and not have to work so darn hard for it. Yeah. So that was always a dream, and we were always willing to take risks. So in 2016, we had a family member who was in the hospitality business, and it was actually, I'm Filipino, but this was a Vietnamese pho and a boba shop that was struggling. And my cousin had worked for this business, and they're like, hey, this particular location that's about an hour away from you is looking for a buyer. And, you know, someone who's motivated because it's not doing great and it needed attention. Because the guy who I guess owned the franchise had multiple locations and he wasn't able to tend to it. So that was our first investment in the food industry. Nice. So we learned a lot of the ropes there. We were able to acquire it, turn it around, and we got into a relationship with Westfield, the mall. They're a big mall. They're in Culver City. Yeah. They're in Topanga. And we built a relationship with them, and they told me about a churro company that was also growing. And I was like, this looks pretty interesting. It seems pretty innovative. So in 2017, we started a second franchise and opened a location at the Pacific View Mall. Okay. Then unfortunately, right around 2019, before COVID happened, things started to take a turn. And we kind of knew the writing was on the wall. And that was a huge learning lesson for us, but we also knew it was time to shut down before we completely, go bankrupt straight up. We lost all of our savings. We poured our heart and our soul into it, but it kept us motivated. So we closed down, and there's still a lot of support from the community, and they're like, hey, what happened to you guys? I want churros. So we stopped doing pho and boba because 805 has a lot of amazing ones, and so respect to it. I wasn't gonna try to trample on anybody who's already in that game because we know a lot of them. So we stuck with churros, freshly made churros. And from there, we decided to go independent. In 2019, we were only doing catering. So people kept asking when we closed the store, why did you guys close? I kept coming back. And we just knew, because then the mall ended up being shut down for months. And that would have been the end of us.
Yeah.
So we got out at the perfect time.
Nice.
And we just started catering, and it was a side business. I quit my job to focus on these things. Yeah. And I ended up going back to work just to get us back on our feet, and we would do this on the side. And we just found a niche. And the catering sector is so small yet so opportunistic.
Yeah, there's so much marketplace for catering.
It's so much. It's small because it's a lot of the same people. You'll be surprised, but there's so much to learn. People are doing so many things. It's such a cool industry that I feel like is an untapped market, especially here. And so we just kept working on it, and so we started doing events, and we grew, and we're being an independent company, we're going on our 5th year, and they say that that's like the over the hump. That if you make it past 5 years.
So 5 years, okay.
Yeah, 5 years in this same field. We're here.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we have 4 like setups where you have vans and you go to these events, and we can average about 5 to 15 a week.
Wow.
So
events?
And we only do catering now. And it's been amazing. It's on our 5th year, and I feel like we're still untapped, and we could do way more.
I love that you guys make yourself exclusive only to catering. So that means you either have to be invited to these events. It keeps you
excited.
Or you have to book one.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Okay, so as far as product, I'm just curious, how do you guys differentiate the products? I'm sure you guys have different. I've seen your Instagram, you have different flavors.
So we started with just the churros. We developed. Well, I give the credit to Hugo and his family, because obviously I just love churros, but that it was of Spanish descent.
Yeah.
So my fond memories of churros is 1, Disneyland, and 2, one of my best friends, she got married in San Miguel de Allende, and I had a churro with Nutella, and it was. I loved it. So then ever since, I love churros, and I look for the same feels. And I was like, how are we going to find this recipe? So we must have done 100 versions to get the perfect recipe.
Wow.
So you know, a lot of, and she gave you like a more simplified version.
Yeah.
But once we decided to go into business for ourselves, we knew we could slightly change our recipes to where it could be better.
That's awesome.
And I feel like because we were able to play around with the recipe for a bit, we kind of came to one where we were like, that's it.
Really?
And then we let a few other people try it, family members, and we're like, don't just tell me like it's good because you're my sister, you're my brother, or my aunt, whatever. I like tell me what you really think, and can it be altered. They're like, man, honestly, like that's the best churro I've ever had. And we kind of just went with that, and then slowly but surely, we found a manufacturer to be able to, manufacture our product, and then we also add a few extra fresh ingredients to, give it that extra touch. But absolutely, to be able to go to events and have, someone who comes from Mexico that's like 80, 85 years old, who has tried a ton of churros in their life, and to tell you, hey, young man, this is the best churro I've ever had in my life. Like to me, that's a big deal, and I've heard it on multiple occasions. So to be able to do something like that and then be innovative all on the way, because we used to do everything out of the back of a trailer, and we'd haul everything. And I was like, man, is it always going to be this hard? And then she finally gave me the idea of trying to find something smaller and develop our churro canisters and create all this stuff. So the process of being able to get there and like really get it to where it was like a well-oiled machine, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was definitely something tough.
I think in any business, and even here working with A+, learning how to smoothen processes and fulfillments is probably one of the most challenging things, because you're working with people, you're working with machines, softwares, timings. Like, there's different factors that can affect it, and you have to kind of play scientist.
I
Absolutely.
think it's important for like continuous
Yeah.
improvement. I mean,
Absolutely.
we evaluate every week. We're like, what could we change? What can we improve? And we get feedback from our team. There's about a dozen of us now, ourselves included, and they will always give us feedback. But we like to be in the field. We still try to go and be in these events. So it's not just, there's a team and we're behind it. We still do the events.
Nice.
So we like to learn, and we're continuously learning, and you just never stop, because
Gotcha.
someone might develop something better. So they'll figure it out a little bit faster, smarter. So we always stay alert on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So for that, like, working with business for 5 years now, I mean, what has been some of the most rewarding things that you guys that kept you guys in the game?
Ooh, there's a lot. I think we're getting our big Amazon one was pretty awesome at the warehouse. It was 1,400 people.
Really? Wow.
Within the span of 2 days. 1,400, yeah.
Yeah, they had us on for a couple hours each day, and to be able to, they're like, are you sure, like, just like this little Churro and 2 people at each station is going to be enough? And, sure enough, we got all those people out of the way. So we're able to keep we don't ever compromise the integrity of the product,
Good.
even though we have such a large volume of people.
Good.
You know what I mean? It's always we're A1, like you guys.
XYZ is this formula.
And we're still able to deliver, even if there's 1,000 people, 2,000 people. Like, you'll never lose the taste of our product. It'll never be watered down.
Love that. I think that's a very sustainable approach. I think I see a lot of companies try to shortcut in order to cater for those quantities and minimize their thing. But I think what really keeps a company is, staying true to their values, right? Not compromising.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And for us, a main value is our customer service.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing we teach our employees. It's just the customer is all about the customer, and you make them feel like they're part of the family.
Love that.
Because, essentially they're an extension of our family, because,
course.
They take a chance on us. Like, they don't know us.
Yeah.
They could pay us, and, a lot of them think we're not going to show up. And they'll call us like, hey, are you sure you're going to be here? And, for them to roll the dice on our small family business, it's a big deal for us.
Yeah.
So we want to treat them like they're a part of our family.
You know what? Oftentimes, even for me, I make the mistake of, like, just not forecast or putting myself in their perspective, that, like, a lot of these customers take the time to really make a decision, and for a business to consider, wow, this person's taking the time of their day to figure out what the best product or the best experience for them is. I've met a lot of very honest and really just down to earth business owners that focus on that, and I can see why they keep sustaining their success. They're
Absolutely.
about the customers. They see it from they're in there to serve them. So that's awesome to see that you guys are doing that.
And it's
I
like
think-
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think what we always tell everyone too is we're a family business. About 80% of the team is family.
Wow.
Family one way or another, and the others, they've been with us since we had the store. So it's almost like family. And one of the things that we teach is we're not, the money is nice. That's what we all work hard for, right?
Of course.
But ultimately, we're not here for the money. We love serving. I call it serving smiles.
Love that.
So, because you'll have food that sustains you, but dessert, it's like this little splurge of fun that you get to have. And so when I see someone and you drizzle a churro with ice cream, they're so excited. Like, they're like, oh, this is going to be a cheat day. And I like that. It's that kid mentality that you said you see and that you remember. So seeing those smiles at every event and them being happy and making their lives easier and not stressed out, because the hosts, they are stressed. So I'm trying to make it an easy experience for them. That's what keep us going. And I always feel like I tell our team is, the money will come if you just do it lovingly, willingly, and with, giving it your all. The customers will come back, and they do. I have people where we saw them get engaged. We were there for when they got married, when they had a housewarming. We just did one. And then their first birthday or a baby shower. Like, we have seen this family grow. So when we even send out the teams, we'll say, hey, remember these people?
Yeah.
They're having a baby, and now they want us there. And I tell them the whole story. I tell them they're not numbers. They are our family. We're an extension of their family. We're excited for them. Like, it's almost like you're throwing someone a party every time. So that's what we like to sell.
That's a good.
And
that's a great way to reframe it too. Instead of just looking at it as a number, because oftentimes, even from, like I said, I make the mistake of just saying, okay, cool, let's get to this process and get to it. But these people have lives, and they treat it as it is.
Yeah.
And to kind of piggyback off of what Ezra was saying, we don't just bring the churros, we bring an experience. So the experience, to be able to smell the churros and seeing them like cranked and like dropped in the oil, and everyone's like, man, it smells amazing.
Yeah, I can smell it right now.
Yeah,
Shit.
like your mouth waters and you're just like, holy, like I'm gonna get that. Yeah, I'm serious. And so to be able to bring that and then hand it to the person and they're just like filled with joy, it's just like that cherry on top.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. And okay, cool. So then let's pivot a little bit. Obviously, you're still working to be a world champ. You're still working corporate. You guys have kids. You guys are together. You have family, and you have Churro Champ. How do you guys balance it all? I think a lot of couples struggle with this, or even business owners themselves. They have a struggle. They have a hard time balancing it. How do you guys create a way to keep yourself sane, first of all, but also balancing everything?
Early on, because things have changed. Early on, when we first got married and when we were still dating, I think Ezra has always been someone that needed to have a planner. And I have been the complete opposite. I'm a person that just kind of goes on a whim and be like, hey, let's go over here. And so, and she'll even, when we first started dating, she'll be like, man, when you want a snack, why do you always just go to 7-Eleven? It's a waste of money. If you really love this snack, just buy it in bulk at Costco. There's no need to spend the extra couple dollars to go every night. And then so I started taking her, and she's like I understand now. I understand why you do that.
Yeah.
And so and it's that thrill of just hey, I'm gonna get up and go out. And so we were like that until just kind of she'd tell me hey, today I gotta work. I'm like, cool, I got a gym today, or I got sparring or physical training. But then once we got into the area of hey, we have a business now, hey, now we have kids, she would tell me hey, we need to start planning out our days because our schedules just clash, or we can't miss this or we can't miss that. So now from my experience today, Ezra always tells me her schedule at the beginning of the week. She'd be like, hey, on this day, even though I need 1,000 reminders, she'd be like, I told you. And I'm like, you never told me. She'll be like, check your text messages.
They never remember.
Anyways, so she'll give me the whole week kind of laid out on her side and what we need to handle together, and then I'll let her know what I have to handle as we're going.
Love that.
So it's
for me though, he was definitely yin and yang. So as much as we had certain commonalities, we were very different. I'm a planner, and he was so spontaneous. I'd be like, what are you doing He's like, come hang out with me at Coffee Bean on a Tuesday. And I was like, why am I going to go to Coffee Bean on a Tuesday? I could go do my homework. I could go to the gym. And I did not like it. And he taught me how to be spontaneous. So I do want to say that we found a balance. So it's important to plan everything, but we definitely make sure to carve in fun time. So, I think it's just planning, and you gotta have the grit to do it. So if on a Tuesday through Friday, we have some time off. We'll plan a time away with the kids, but then by Saturday, we'll be back home. And we've flown in from a flight with our family, and the next day we had, 5 gigs. It's just really carving out time, or date night. It's really important. Hugo, it's his love language. He loves quality time.
Yeah,
so
he does. I see that.
I make sure to carve out, even though I plan the day, one day where we go watch a movie, and it's just the two of us, and we're not apologetic about it. We make sure that, our parents know, they support that we need the dating time, because if not, that's
What are
how
we waiting for,
relationships fail.
Yeah.
If you lose each other in the process where you just raise kids. And we're not. We're still dating. We still love to go out on dates. We love watching movies,
That's
but we
awesome.
make time for it.
I'm taking notes for my future wife.
Yeah.
I was
You
gonna
just
say
gotta do it.
to
You
all the
have
fellas
to
out
do
there
it.
that are, you know,
Make
with their
time.
girlfriends or with their wife, like keep dating them.
Yeah.
Take notes.
Dating. Be
You know,
spontaneous.
because you know you do get into like this cycle of, you know, we're just together, we're gonna hang out, or we're gonna, you know, the usual, and you kind of like you lose that spark,
Yeah.
you know, of why you guys started originally.
Yeah.
So continue to date each other
Yeah,
because
you can't say,
I
"Oh,
love
well,
that.
when this is over, you know, then
Ah.
we'll have time." Then when this is over, when this is done, no, you do it tomorrow, today. You make the time. That's what it is.
That's
No ifs,
something,
ands, or buts.
I'm slowly starting to learn as well. I think because I've been so alone for such a long time, I've kind of rendered those quality times to be, I wouldn't say not as important, but rather I found myself not having or not making time for it.
right,
Right. So then recently I started to tap back and say, hey, I need to make time for this thing, you know, because I carved this out for myself. Like, my mentor would tell me, you got to find things to work for. You can't just keep working for. You got to find things like, if you're working for all this thing, well, what is it for? Right. It's good to have goals, it's good to have things, but you have to remember what you're working for.
Right.
So like, as I tap it back into that, like going back to you guys are creating that reasons. It's like, for me, it's like little checkpoints,
right,
you know, checkpoints to like, okay, cool. Come back out. All right, cool. Back in the game. It's like, in boxing
Right,
even,
right,
right?
so,
like,
yeah.
all right, cool. You know, resting a little bit,
You're going up the
corner,
ladder, right?
And get their next one. All right, cool. Rest, go back in there.
right.
Right? That's awesome. That's awesome. So, thank you guys for sharing that. I love how I can see how you guys have are working, and almost feels like I'm talking to one person. Just so you guys know, I feel like one person's talking. Oh, she already knows what she's gonna say, and she's saying something. It's like, how did you guys know this?
Right. It's
pretty
a
crazy.
marriage thing, and a lot of
Yeah.
people will tell you that.
That's pretty cool. I see that with.
You'll get there.
Yeah, you'll get there. Yeah,
Hopefully
when
we'll
you
get
make time. Yeah, when you make
I'm
the time for
patient.
it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then, right now, I noticed that you're still training to become the world champion, which is a huge goal that you're
Right.
trying to do. Like, what does that process look like? I mean, shit. I'm just, like, very
It's-
ambitious.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like it's definitely not an easy journey
Mhm.
because, like, I said, like, you know, a lot of boxing comes with politics, and the politics are what's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, for me, I've taken 2 years off, and they'll be like, oh, well, you know, unfortunately, you lost your last fight.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get a couple wins under your belt. And then, yeah, you are, like, someone that has a high ranking because you have accomplished so much. But, like, you got to get back in the winning circle. So for me, it has to be a couple fights that now I'm in the winning circle. Hey, there's no more ring rust. Like, hey, all right, well, we're going to put in a big fight. Are you okay with that? Like, are you in? Like, because if we do, you know, you're going to be on the losing side because we're not promoting you. Because if you, I don't know if a lot of people don't know this, but there's a winning side and a losing side to every fight. Because a fighter will be promoted by the main promoter, and the other guy probably won't.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, some of those guys that are not, you know, end up becoming the winner, and then they got an opportunity. You know, so for me, I have to roll that dice because unfortunately, you know, I did take a loss, and now I'm trying to come back and trying to show people what I'm made out of. So it's gonna be twice as hard for me to do it, but it's not impossible because I know I've done it before. So it's just, like I said, putting my head down and getting back to work, and then, you know, calling the right people from, you know, the connections that I have made along the way.
Sure, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'm just curious, how is this, like, how is this, now that you guys have developed the business, you guys have kids now, and you've spent time, and you've kind of reconnected back into the sport, how are you guys merging it into your lifestyle?
I think it merged pretty well. So he just said, look, I'm going to start training every morning again from Monday through Friday. And we just kind of made it work. We always do. So I just know there's like this 3-hour block where I'll watch the kids, or he takes them to school and I watch the other one. I think it's just making time for it. And the way we're also doing it is we're phasing certain things out. So like the business, now it's pretty automatic. As big as it's gotten, I know what I need to do every day, and our team knows what to do every day. And he's able to step away from it. So before, we were doing all these events, and then we started hiring. and then hiring, and now there's 12 of us. So we're not, and I don't schedule gigs to where we all need to work. You know, I make room to where we're not working in the field all the time. And in the time that he starts training camps, so there's 4 weeks where he's basically MIA and he's not available to do anything. And I prepare for that. So whenever I know what to expect next, I time our weeks to where I'm like, okay, this is the week where he's doing this. I can't do anything. So yeah, I think it's just planning.
Yeah.
And making it work.
You are the planner.
Yeah. We don't get a lot of sleep, to be honest.
I feel that.
But, you know, I need 5 hours. Other than that, I'm good.
You're a go-getter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We feed off of, like, motivation.
Yeah. And I think you guys have a understanding and have accepted this, maybe I would like to call it beautiful chaos. Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
We signed up for this.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't realize that they've signed up for this thing.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I think that the responsibility when you're starting something that you're very ambitious for is the sacrifices that you mentioned is for that sign up. That hey, it's gonna take more work. It's gonna take more sacrifices.
Yeah.
Right. So
Absolutely.
I can definitely see you guys winning this thing. I mean, I also think that you building your brand back up and going out there and doing more will also pour into the business. Would you even say, or like how is that like even evolving for you guys?
I think I agree because like now the last couple fights that I went out there, you know, I'll put on Churro Champ on my shorts.
Love
so
that.
you know, it will get some publicity and
Love
like
that.
you know, I'm not one to like really show off like, hey, I'm this guy, or hey, like I'm the owner of Churro Champ or anything like that. Even though I am one of the faces on the logos. But like I'm never like, hey, look at us, like we're the owners, and you know, like I understand sometimes people want you to get personal with your business so they know who they're talking to put a face to it, but you know, I'm just not that person. Yeah. You know, but I feel absolutely, and that's why my parents taught me to be there. Ever like, you know, I don't want to throw any shade, but when I was growing up, Fernando Vargas was the guy around here.
Yep.
And when he was coming up, he was that guy. He's like, I'm this badass, and I'm like, this, you know, do you know who I am? Do you know what I've done? Like, I'm not that guy. And like some people, like I don't ever go around telling people like, hey, do you know I box? Like, hey, I'm a fighter. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm top 5. Like, I've never done that. It's people always end up finding out like, somehow. Like they somehow like, hey, that guy boxed over there. Hey man, I don't know who you were. Can I get a picture with you? Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's cool. And so like even now, like when we go to the churro gigs, like I always do churro gigs, and sometimes people will see like, hey, bro, like I know you're here working. Yeah, get a picture with you. I'm like, you sure, man? Like someone's gonna ask you like, hey, why are you taking a picture with the churro guy? You know what? Like he's the caterer. Why are you taking a picture with him? But you know, I also know that I'm not too big to serve people.
Love that.
You know,
that's where it's at.
You know,
for that community.
You know, not just that. Like you know, Jesus said to serve. Like I put all my faith in him, and he served. Like he was washing feet. Why can't I serve people even whatever, regardless of what I've accomplished? Like I'm not too big to do that. Yeah. And so, you know, I go out and I don't ever put my employees to do something that I won't do myself.
Love that too.
And so I go out and handle it. Yeah. And so does Ezra. And, you know, and now that when I go out and fight, you know, I do the same. Like I don't show off. I let my fist do the talking. And along the way, I will put Churro Champ on my shorts to let people know, like, hey, like, Churro Champ, you need to check it out. You hire me, I'll be there. You know, even if I'm fighting right now, like you just put on different hats.
That's
you know?
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Cool. You guys are
and
definitely.
And it sustains us too. It helps you so that he can keep going with his dream. That these you know weekend events are helping us stay sustained, especially in California. I mean, the economy is obviously difficult. So you know.
And what she means by that, like with the sustainability of boxing, a lot of people don't understand that you get paid in lump sums.
Or not at all.
Or not at all, Sometimes you fight and the paycheck might not be that big by the time you end up paying out your corner or whoever made your outfit or your nutritionist. You end up with like half. Sure. Yeah. And sometimes half of this small check is not a lot. So, you know, sometimes you have a side hustle that sustains your main hustle. You know what I mean?
That's some real entrepreneurship.
And some boxers, they have day jobs. And luckily for us, he doesn't have to have a day job because of this. It's still a lot of work, but he can still pursue his dream.
But you're making the most out of it, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are making it work. This is This is your craft. This is your shit. You're owning it.
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, this is as close to like showing off that I'll get.
Okay.
Yeah. We're busy, but
That's not showing off to me.
Yeah, yeah.
we
That's
signed up for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I always
That's-
tell people that it's chaotic, and I sound like I'm venting, but honestly, this is my day to day, and some people get it, and some people don't.
Respect to that.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I talk to other people, I don't even expect them to be able to relate.
Yeah.
I just kind of, this is where I'm at, and so then sometimes the bad part about it is when I hear people's problem, like, bro, you have no idea how easy you got it right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make them feel small because everybody's problem is relative, but I'm just
Yes.
like, okay, then I have to tap into my companion shoes and like, okay, let me baby you up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you need to
Very
hear? How can I help?
But that's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys have a journey. I love seeing this unfold, and I'm glad to be connected for you guys to be here in the podcast. Literally, I didn't know much more about you until now, recently, having you on the podcast. So it's an honor to have you guys, just share your journey.
Thank you. for
So
having us.
let's pivot back into what we mentioned, what I promised earlier. So if you were tuning in this far, we're gonna do our announcement. So let's start off with you guys. Basically, what you guys have to promote. So for anybody listening to this, go ahead. What do you guys got to offer?
Yeah, so I mean, if you made it this far on the podcast, we just want to thank you from Churro Champ and from Voiced. We just want to say we're gonna have 5 winners and we're gonna do 5 giveaways, and for our grand prize, whoever stay tuned, and for whoever reaches out, we're gonna do a gig completely for free.
Okay.
And as long as you're within 15 miles of Oxnard,
Nice.
and it's about 50 people or 50 servings in your party, we'll do it completely for free. All you have to do is just write us on our DM, churro, which is on Instagram, which is churro_champ. The keyword is the boss,
The
which is
boss.
my nickname.
Yes, sir.
In boxing. And then for the 4 other people, we're gonna do 20% off.
Love that. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And I will do a giveaway here in A Plus Branding as well. So if you did tune in here, either DM us, or if we set up our website before I put this episode out, you can put the boss as well, and you will get 100 stickers on us for free. Just give us the logo, make sure it's all set up and we will get you that. And for anybody who do tune in and wasn't able to take advantage of that first offer, you will get 20% off your next order for stickers. Just DM us, call us, saying that you heard it from this podcast, and we got you. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Cool. So now going back into our interview, let's wrap it up a little bit, right? So going back into this, now you guys have this foundation, you guys have a family, you guys have a probably way better, clear vision than before, right? What are some things that you guys are looking forward to as far as like aspirations and where you guys see the business going, or where your journey as a world champ coming to close to?
You can go first.
So for boxing, obviously, like I said, I don't want to box forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if I could, I would, because I love the competitiveness of it. But realistically, I just don't want this sport to retire me. Yeah, I want to retire this sport for my life. And sometimes I think about it, and I know it'll be hard to let go of, but because like I said, it's my first love. But I see myself in this sport maybe for another 5 years, which is, regardless, in boxing, it's a close, like a very short window. But I want to try to, like I said, become a world champion, because it's always been my childhood dream. And if I can accomplish that, I will. And if I can't, I know this is not the only good thing I'm good at.
Do you foresee yourself staying in the industry somehow, maybe becoming a coach, teaching others, being a part of other boxers' journey?
I've always told like other people, even Ezra, like she's always like, "Hey, you think we could do the mids, and you can show me a little bit?" And
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
like,
just curious.
honestly, like I'm not a coach. I'm just not. I'm just not patient enough.
Okay.
Because I'm so used to a high caliber of boxing that it's like, why don't you throw it like how I'm throwing it? Like, just do it like this. It's not that hard. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Like turn your punch, turn your foot into the punch. And I'm just not a patient person. I've tried it in the
That's
past,
fair.
and that's not me. If I could commentate, I feel like
Okay.
I would commentate in the sport, and it was to be close enough,
I could see
but
that.
not
Yeah.
too far. And so If I could do that, I think that would be pretty cool.
Maybe we're a little sponsored by Churro Champ.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just some kind of
We can do that. I can see that.
Yeah,
Foreseeing, yeah, I like
absolutely. So I feel like I would just be close enough to the sport without, actually like doing the physical where your body just can't anymore. I think I'd go down that route. But if not, like I said, I just know that as I continue to develop skills as a man, that's not the only good thing. The only thing I'm good at.
Yeah, I mean, you have your kids too, so I imagine you're looking forward to
spending time with
them, helping them grow, see where they want to go, right?
Right.
Cool. And what about for the business or for you? I mean, shit, you started off having the entrepreneur spirit, right? Starting with fashion. Now you're part owner of Churro Champ.
Well, I guess for me, I always think obviously for now my family, so it's just not for myself, but it's still rewarding nonetheless. I'm used to being the person that's behind the scenes. I'm most comfortable. So I actually have to give a shout out. Thank you for giving me a chance because I'm never here. Yeah. And I was actually really nervous. And also one of my teammates. No, not at all. It felt like a conversation. Her name is Lily, and she's been with me since day one. She's like, you know what, Ezra, you may not feel the need to validate yourself through this podcast, but she said, maybe other people will want to hear your story. You're a minority, you're a female, you're a go-getter. Maybe someone will benefit from it. And that really changed my perspective because I was only thinking about myself and how I don't need it. I have to be modest. And she encouraged me. In terms of what I see for the future, for us, I don't know where we're going. I just know that my end goal is to be able to save and have a source of income, have financial freedom, to be able to spend time with my family and watch my kids grow without being that parent where we were, he or I are both gone. We love being present for our family, so we want to be successful. And then in the future, what I'd like to do to give back to that to the community, especially 805, is to maybe help others and encourage minorities, females, to start entrepreneurship, because I feel like we don't get that chance, and you are always told like you need to work hard, keep your head down.
I agree.
Don't complain. And I want to encourage, people like us,
especially
to
women.
Do it. Yes.
Especially women.
Yeah.
I think it's a very underrepresented industry or group of people to start their own businesses. Like, I admire female business owners so much because most men are expected to kind of do that, or rather it's very easy for them to do so, and plus they also have a little bit more privilege, right? They're more, you can do this kind of thing. But for women, there is a little bit of indirect, resistance for them.
Especially minority women.
Yeah, especially minority women.
Yeah, so I think that's what my goal is, we don't know how much longer we're going to be in the food industry. It's definitely taxing.
Right.
Also time consuming. Every weekend is gone. We miss birthdays for that matter because we're serving other birthdays. So we don't know what we're going to tap into, but definitely aim for entrepreneurship, financial freedom. And that's what I see. And hopefully, we'll be back here in a few years and you're doing something and we're doing something else.
Trust me. I've had a lot of people here just progress, throughout their journey. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be some amazing things coming out of this thing.
But that's one of the things is after we've been seasoned enough in the industry and we have proven our success, I want to be able to give that back and mentor, without any cost. I mean, just to help out. And because someone helped me, I think it was through the Chamber of Commerce. Someone came out to me and helped me. But of course it was, a male, and I wish I could have had somebody I could relate to more. So hopefully one day when somebody needs guidance, I could do the same for them, whether it's female or minority, I could encourage them. Because usually, they're like, go to work, serve, and then retire. And I just don't believe that that's the way life should be.
There's so much more opportunities nowadays, and that's why we have this podcast, so that we showcase people like you guys to show that there is other possibilities out there. What's that inner voice within you that's willing to shout for yourself, So I really appreciate you guys for coming on in here, sharing you guys' story, so as far as this end, for anybody looking to connect with you guys, let's whether the business or just you itself, where can they find you guys?
For me on Instagram, it's Hugo Centeno Jr. And on Churro Champ, it's Churro_Champ.
Awesome. Website? Anything?
ChurroChamp.com for the website.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. And then ending it off right now for anybody listening in, do you guys have any last messages that you guys would like to voice out for any, aspiring entrepreneurs or creators or athletes?
What about you?
I think for me, especially for athletes, I feel like, especially with boxing or just sports in general, I feel like because we do live in the social media world, there's a lot of naysayers, and it can get to you. It's even though as much as we want to say is that they don't hurt, or like the athlete doesn't have feelings or whatever they want to go through. Just believe in yourself, because self-doubt is not real. Like it's just people's opinions and something that wasn't even there before when you were doing this, and what made you get this far. So if you believe in yourself, just continue to hone your craft, and don't give up. Have faith.
Own that shit.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And speaking of owning that shit, before we go, Ezra's not one to show off, but Ezra put herself through school at the age of 23.
Yeah.
And she got her master's at 23.
That's impressive.
And she's like worked for these big corporational companies that I probably won't name drop, but she's worked for some really big companies, and she's been a big person that's worked at those companies. So, she has a lot of accolades too, but she won't tell you because she's very humble. She's more humble than I am.
Damn,
but
we only got to put it on the pod.
Yeah,
All right, guys, behind the scenes, everybody get off.
Yeah, she is so used to doing that. But I mean, if someone's you're talking to someone at Churro Champ, she's the only person you're talking to, like from contracts to legal stuff to. I didn't even know we needed insurance until Ezra. I'm serious.
Permits.
Permits. I was like, who needs a permit? You see you think that guy at the corner has a permit? Why do we need it? But because of those things, because of how Ezra has all that, all those accolades, she knows what is necessary to land the big fish.
Showcasing that.
So yeah, absolutely. Applause to Ezra, because she doesn't get it enough.
Oh, thank you.
Cool.
For me, what would I say for advice? I think live in your truth. In many ways, it's cliche, but I think when you find that thing, who you are, what you are, not what other people want you to be, I think just live in that. And there's just something so freeing about knowing who you are and being unapologetic for it and not being ashamed of it. I think you just got to own it. I mean, there's always room for improvement and to grow. But when you are who you are, just embrace it and just live in your truth. Don't make up or try to be something else. That's me. I like to live in my truth. Okay. So, and you just go for it.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for sharing that. Before we end up the podcast, actually, A+ has created some gifts for you guys.
Gosh.
We ended up printing out you guys'
That looks awesome.
logo.
So
Thank you
So
guys.
that's a die cut and
Appreciate
a
that.
circle sticker. Speaking of the stickers, as I mentioned, make sure you guys have promotion, guys.
That looks awesome. Thank you guys
So
so
yeah,
much.
give you guys a little love. So
We
you guys
appreciate
can
that.
stick that on I'm gonna stick one of
Love
my
it.
sticker on though. So they do all
That's
kinds of
badass.
stuff like that too. I mean, Josie showed you guys that, right?
Shout out to A+
Thank
Branding.
you.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys, man.
Cool, awesome.
Love
Well,
it.
hope you guys enjoyed that. For anybody tuning in, thank you guys for tuning into this episode. We'll see you guys in the next podcast episode, I guess.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you
course.
for having us.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll be doing more episodes like this where we bring on professionals, experts, leaders to voice what they stand for. So if you haven't already, make sure to follow or subscribe so that you can tune in to the next and latest episodes.